All right. Today we're going to open up a bit of a time capsule. No, we're not talking about ancient history, but something way closer, and honestly, maybe even more revealing. What we've got here is a sales brochure from 1982 for a luxury retirement community called Powys House. So let's dive in and explore what the absolute dream retirement looked like, 1980s style.
Right from the jump, the brochure makes this incredibly bold promise. See, this wasn't just about selling apartments, it was about selling a solution. A solution to that big, tricky problem of growing older and finding that perfect sweet spot between freedom and support. That sets a pretty high bar for what's to come, doesn't it? And here it is, the artifact itself. This page, the preface, is basically our guide. Every little detail, from the choice of font to that architectural sketch, is all designed to make you feel a sense of quality and, well, peace. It's a perfect window into what was considered the absolute peak of aspirational living for retirees more than 40 years ago.
So first up, let's talk about the setting. A huge part of the appeal of Powys House was its history and its location. This wasn't just some new building plopped down in a field. It was a place that already had a story. The brochure just paints this picture of Sidmouth as the most idyllic coastal town imaginable. It's described as unspoiled, quiet, prestigious, even sheltered by hills with a mild climate. You get the picture. It's the kind of place you'd move to for some serious peace and quiet, a total world away from the hustle and bustle. The absolute perfect backdrop for this retirement dream. And the building itself? It has quite a past. It actually started back in 1817 as a Regency cottage, and I say cottage in air quotes because it was 120 feet long. Not exactly tiny. It was expanded over the years, some well-respected local people lived in it, and then eventually it was redeveloped in 1982. So you weren't just moving into a new build, you were moving into a piece of history, just, adapted for modern life.
Now, a huge part of the sales pitch was the grounds, 4 whole acres of a walled garden. And get this, the brochure makes a big deal about a sweet chestnut tree that was reputedly the second oldest in all of Britain. Can you imagine having that in your backyard? It was all about selling this established, prestigious, and just flat-out beautiful environment.
Okay, so the setting is grand. It's historic. We get it. But what about the living space itself? Let's head inside and see what was considered the absolute peak of luxury way back in 1982. This is where you can really see the era shining through. The brochure boasts about things like innovative off-peak electric heating and super premium insulation. You've got double glazing, a call bell system for security, and dedicated points for your TV aerial and telephone. This was the 1980s version of a smart home, all designed for maximum comfort with minimum fuss. And because of all that high-tech insulation and fancy heating, the brochure estimated that the annual heating costs for one of the new apartments would be just £118 for the entire year. It's a number that, from our perspective today, just seems, well, almost unbelievable. But life here wasn't supposed to be just about your own apartment. No, there was a huge emphasis on community. There was a grand residences lounge, a card room with a polished oak floor, and even 2 fully furnished guest suites so your friends and family could come and visit. This was really about building a social, supportive lifestyle from the ground up. And what if you needed a place to park your car? Well, here is another incredible number from this little time capsule. A brick-built garage, complete with an up-and-over door and its own power socket, could be all yours for a one-time leasehold price of £2,750. Okay, so let's say you're sold, you love the location, you're into the luxury, but how did the deal actually work? This is where things get really, really unique. So the crucial detail is that you weren't buying a freehold. You were buying a 999-year lease, which is, let's be honest, practically forever. And the ground rent was fixed at just £1 per year. £1. It was all designed to give residents that security of ownership without any fear of escalating costs down the road. Of course, there was a service charge, and the brochure lays it all out, giving an estimated breakdown for 1984. It covered everything you'd expect, right? The resident secretary's salary, building insurance, lift maintenance. The total estimated cost per apartment was about £42 a month. It's actually an incredibly transparent look at what it costs to run this community. Now, we get to the most unusual part of the contract. When it came time to sell your apartment, you couldn't just go hire your own estate agent. Nope.
The company that developed the property, Stonechester, was obligated to handle the entire resale for you. This was all framed as a benefit, of course, a way to relieve the owner of all that stress and worry.
And here's how it worked. You tell the company to sell. They handle everything. The agents, the lawyers, the whole shebang. They sell it at the current market value. But, and it's a big but, here's the catch. In exchange for this service, the company keeps a 10% fee from the final sale price. It's a fascinating business model, really, promising total convenience in exchange for a pretty significant cut of the future value.
So far, we've looked at the marketing, the building, the legal fine print, but there's one more layer to the story. A discovery inside this brochure that changes everything. It's about the people. In the back of this specific brochure, someone, probably a sales agent, used the architectural floor plans to keep track of who was buying which apartment. So on one side, you see the clean, sterile plan. On the other, that same plan is covered in handwritten names. This is the exact moment that the abstract idea of Powys House becomes a real community.
Let's just look a little closer here. On the ground floor, you can see apartment 11 is reserved for John and Esther Marsh, apartment 14 for Ruby Parker, apartment 17 for Mr. and Mrs. Fulming. These aren't just unit numbers anymore, are they? They are the future homes of real people, with their names just penciled in, full of hope and expectation for what's next. And up on the first floor, it's the same story. Apartment 43 is for Sybil Kilgore, number 51 for N.S. Hubbard, number 27 for Frank and Walter Haskow. You can almost picture them meeting in the hallway for the very first time. This document stopped being a sales tool. It became the very first record of a neighborhood being born.
It really just shows you the power of a simple annotation, doesn't it? These scribbled names totally bridge the gap between a commercial pitch and dozens of real human stories. They capture that exact point where a developer's blueprint turns into a collection of homes and hopes and futures. It's a truly remarkable piece of social history, hidden in plain sight. And you know what? That's where we'll leave it. We've deconstructed the dream that was being sold in 1982, but these names, they just invite us to wonder about the reality. Who were John and Esther Marsh? What was Sybil Kilgore's story? The brochure gives us all the facts, but the lives that were actually lived within these walls, well, those stories are held forever within these plans.